Thank you all for joining me here today. I was thinking about the title of the talk after I submitted it and I got it accepted. And I don't mean to disrespect anyone. I don't want to call anyone lazy. Probably this is for me, because I tend to want to cut corners when especially managing Kubernetes. It's so complex. And sometimes it feels like it's a second full-time job. And now there are tools that help us with that, all the heavy lifting. One of these tools that I'm gonna present to you today was just launched in December, EKS Auto Mode, and Karpenter as well, which is a great open source tool. So they all help with that complexity. So we can focus on more important things and we don't have to, have to operate all that complexity that Kubernetes has. Now, before I start, let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm a global technologist at Veeam. We do data protection. We're now doing a little bit of cybersecurity as well. And I've spent a lot of time in the trenches helping teams build a smarter infrastructure. I'm also an AWS container hero, CNCF ambassador. I'm based out of New York. I organize a few events there. So this same event style, I organize it in New York. It's going to be towards the end of the year. If you're interested, ping me on social media. And we just had our Kubernetes Community Day yesterday, which there was a presentation from Raj. I don't know if any of you know about Karpenter as well. So very well attended. It was a great event. And yeah, I love talking about Kubernetes as you might notice in a little bit. So let's start with the setup, the EKS setup we've known for years. AWS manages the Kubernetes control plane, so the API, the etcd, and everything from that side, but we still have to manage the data plane. So the worker nodes, the add-ons, AMIs, networking, scaling, all these, important stuff, we still have to do it. Some of the heavy lifting is done by AWS, but we still have that manual work also of patching and monitoring, which is very important, to launch and operate production-grade clusters. Now, to scale workloads, teams have historically used Cluster Autoscaler. It's a great tool. I've used that for a while, but it's reactive and not predictive. So it only supports auto-scaling groups, and that means you need to predefine instance types, sizes, and limits. And then if you want to span to multiple availability zones, you need multiple auto-scaling groups. And then that means a longer YAML file, more infrastructure coordination, slower response times when your workloads spike. And those are a few of the challenges when you use the cluster autoscaler. So the two biggest challenges are slow scaling and wasted resources. Because it relies on auto-scaling groups, you often end up with over-provisioned nodes that just sit idle there and you're not using them, so just incurring costs. And then when the scaling happens, it's not immediate. The pods, they sometimes can be sitting there for a while, especially during a rapid scale, and then that incurs in costs as well. So this is what it looks like with the cluster autoscaler, the autoscaling group. It talks to the EC2 fleet. You need to explicitly manage those two. But now, there is a few years ago, AWS created Karpenter, and then they donated to the CNCF. Now it's an open source tool that helps simplify and speed Kubernetes scaling. So Karpenter doesn't need the cluster autoscaler, doesn't need the autoscaling groups. It bypasses those. You just have to define two YAML files, so node pool and node class, and it talks directly to the EC2 fleet. So instead of managing node groups, now you just define those, and Karpenter will pick the best fit EC2 based on cost and availability. And then it will spin up those EC2s for you in seconds. Now let's see a little bit about the flexibility that Karpenter can give you. So you have powerful fine-tune optimization. You can customize it a lot. Like in this sample node pool here, this YAML file, you can specify the instance family and the instance size, or you can leave it blank and let Karpenter decide automatically for you the best instance type based on your workload. You can also control how many EC2 instances a node pool can provision. So in this, the example at the bottom, limits 100 CPUs, you can put in the node pool and tell how much to provision, how many EC2 instances, and then you can set conditions like greater than or less than for CPU and memory. Other things that you can customize as well is availability zones, so you can specify to spin up in a specific availability zone or in a few. You can also leave it blank, and then Karpenter will decide that for you based on the availability zone with the highest capacity. You can also choose the CPU architecture. So depending on the workloads, if you're running AI, etc., you might prefer ARM for price or performance. You just have to specify in this node pool. And if you use Spot for cost savings, I like using Spot, but I never recommend it for production. You know, if you're testing or personal projects, I use that a lot. Karpenter prioritizes the best price-performance combo using your EC2 instances and real-time data. Now, not only that, so Spot is great for cost savings, but they are very volatile. So, you know, if you're running your workloads and then the Spot is cut, you know, it's going to disrupt your workloads unless you have a smart handler. And Karpenter does that for you. It has a native support for Spot interruptions. So it integrates with AWS Event Bridge and SQS to catch a 2-minute warning before any interruption. So now you don't need a custom node termination handler or any extra controllers. You can connect your event bridge rules to the an SQS queue, and then Karpenter will do the rest for you. You don't even need to think about that. You will detect the event, launch a replacement node, and then you will evict the pod safely. So now it ensures continuity. You have your workloads running. If it needs to be interrupted, Karpenter will spin up a new one for you, and that makes Spot production grade ready. Now, not only that, Karpenter continuously evaluates your cluster state. So if your nodes are underutilized, like you see here on the top, it intelligently consolidates your pods and drains the unneeded nodes. So if you put in your node pool this consolidation policy when underutilized, Karpenter will automatically bin pack the pods and get rid of the other EC2 instances. So instead of running 3 extra pods that are, you know, too big for those workloads, it will bin pack, and then it saves you a lot of money. And not only that, it's also intelligent enough. So let's say in this case, these 2 instances are M5X large, but you don't need so big instances so big. So if it will consolidate that for you into one M5 large instance. So it's gonna reduce the size, so there is no waste. And then it will bin pack your nodes for like that. But now here's the catch. So Karpenter is great, open source, is free, you know, but you still have to manage a lot of things. You need to deploy it, you need to configure it, you need to monitor it, you need to upgrade it, you know. So even for a few teams, Karpenter is still too much to manage, especially smaller teams, you know, that just want to focus on building the application and getting it up and running. Otherwise, you need to also manage the life cycle of AMIs, security, networking, all the add-ons, etc. That's a lot of overhead. And AWS has heard this a lot. people saying, I just want to run my application. I don't want to know anything that's underneath what's going on. I just want to click a button and hope my application is running. And that's why they launched EKS Auto Mode. So they just launched it in December at reInvent. And the goal is to help teams, smaller teams that just want that quick one click of a button and everything is up and running, zero infrastructure, zero touch experience for running their containerized workloads. So AWS runs the show. They do everything for you. This is what it used to look like. So I shared at the beginning how EKS looked like, and this is with self-managed Karpenter. You can see the add-on, and now it looks like this. So AWS pretty much takes the complexity of Karpenter, it wraps it up for you and manages it for you. So it still uses Karpenter under the hood, but it does more than that. It provisions the worker nodes for you, it selects bottle rocket AMIs, it integrates key add-ons directly into the operating system as system D services. There is no daemon set overhead, and all the EC2 instances, they come preloaded with agents like Core DNS, VPC CNI, and CSI drivers. Now, some interesting things as well is that AWS handles provisioning, scaling, patching, and AMI's updates. So it comes with pre-configured node pools. There are two types, so a general one and another one called system, but you can still define your own if you need a little bit of customization, but there is a limit of the amount of customization that you can have with your node pools. Also, EKS Auto Mode, it automatically recycles the nodes for you. So on a fixed schedule, here you can see expire after 336 hours, which means 40 days. So that's by default. And you can do it on maximum for 21 days. So you can just leave your nodes running. It's going to recycle them for you and apply the latest patches and the bottle rocket AMI. Now, you can't delay, that's the maximum 21 days. You can't delay that for security reasons, and you don't have control on the underlying image, so you can't choose other AMIs. I'm going to show you a comparison table, but this is great, for teams that don't need a big flexibility. It's zero touch, it's a little bit opinionated, an opinionated model, but it's designed for fast and safe operations, which is what a lot of teams ask for. Now, I created this table so you can see, what are the pros and cons, the trade-offs with self-managed Karpenter versus EKS Auto Mode. So basically, with self-managed Karpenter, you have the flexibility that I've been telling you. You get full control over your AMIs. You can customize them, custom agents. You don't have the expiration, so you long-lived nodes for as long as you want, which is not recommended. You have advanced networking and a lot more. But you're also responsible for the operations. Now, with EKS Auto Mode, AWS handles most of everything for you. It's opinionated, so bottle rocket only, as I mentioned. The fixed node lifecycle, no SSH, but you get a fully managed operation for you, all the security patches, and a zero infrastructure burden. I think the biggest difference here that companies, when they are evaluating, is probably the cost. So as I mentioned, Karpenter is free, but you need to learn how to manage it. And EKS Auto Mode has a pretty high cost, so you incur in the cost of your EC2s, but there is still a 12% fee to use that auto mode. So I think they're just in the starting phase. You know, they just launched this feature, and they're always looking for feedback. You know, the price might change, but it's really for those companies that have a very small team and they just want their applications running. But if you ask yourself, what should I choose? Do I want to go self-managed mode, or do I want to go auto mode? You know, again, it decides. If you're running regulated workloads, you need, you know, you have more compliance issues, you need customization, or you know, you want advanced networking, then Karpenter will give you that flexibility. But if you are a SaaS team, a small team, or you're just looking for the fastest way to production, then EKS Auto Mode will help you a lot. And it depends on your budget. I would say it's the first thing to think about: your risk appetite, governance needs, and operational maturity as well. If you want to go deeper, I would first recommend Karpenter's documentation. You know, the community around the open source. I'm very involved in the open source community, the CNCF community, and they really help with the documentation. Is very detailed. So if you're afraid, oh, I'm gonna have to manage everything Karpenter, you know, they have starting guides, and everything is very helpful. So I would tell you, go check out the Karpenter documentation. But if you also want to try EKS Auto Mode and you don't want to mess up your own environment, EKS has a workshop. They built a workshop that you can go and follow step by step with instructions, and then they have already a CloudFormation template to spin up everything for you, and you can try, you can clean your environment after and see if that's a good fit for you. Also, there are 2 blog posts written by AWS employees. That is also a comparison, you know, side by side, what's good, what's not, and they each have different information. So I would also recommend you to go and check it out. And I appreciate you joining me today. If you have any questions, I'll be here a little bit more. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I love talking about Kubernetes. But I hope it was a little bit, it was helpful to clarify, you know, what is the difference. Because a lot of people don't even know that AWS Auto Mode runs Karpenter under the hood. You know, so and we see there are so many new tools coming out, and we see, oh, there is not this new shiny tool. Do I really need it? You know, I don't know. I'm not here to sell you a AWS Auto Mode. I'm just here to tell you what's out there. Might be helpful, might be what your team is looking for, but might not be. So it depends. But you know, AWS is always coming with new tools. So this one is, I've tried, I've really liked. And if you're interested, if you're curious, I would tell you to check it out. Thank you. If you have any questions, yeah, feel free to ask me. Thank you.